Hi, I'm Jim Smith. This is the 1000. I've got another book to talk to you about today, and I have to put my glasses on so I can read because I want to read a little bit of this. This is called Democratic Government and Politics. This is a very old book. This is the 1959 edition, and this is one of the last editions of this book that started back in the 40s. J.A. Corey from Queen's University and J.E. Hodgetts, Department of Political Economy, University of Toronto. This is an extremely valuable book to me because this is even before my time. And the political theory that's in here is the political theories under which I actually was raised. And it's very interesting. And the theory I want to talk to you right now is not a theory, it's a fact of British common law. And it's embodied in here in several different locations. I just don't feel like reading a book to you on YouTube. It seems kind of relatively low level of entertainment, even by my standards. But the point that we want to make today is how British common law works, because we are a British common law country, as are United States, Australia, New Zealand, Great Britain, and a few other places around the world to one degree or another. And this does vary to degree. But the essence of common law, the absolute thing we must most understand, is a principle that is stated as follows: what is not forbidden is permitted. This is what sets British common law. Going back to Magna Carta, and we're going to have a piece on the Magna Carta. It's going to be kind of fun because it's coming to Edmonton, where most of the shooting goes on in the not too distant future. We're going to plug it a little bit because I think it's pretty cool that that happened. But going back to that time, what is not forbidden is permitted. So you do not need the government's permission to do anything at all unless the government passes a law saying you can't do it. Now, this is opposed by a form of government that comes out of the civil law, Code Napoleon, if you will. Oh, good, that Napoleon guy, you've heard of him before. He's not one of the great Democrats of all time. Napoleon was a dictator, he was an emperor, and he was a megalomaniac and wanted to conquer the world. And I'm not sure why anybody would be attached to his law. But under Code Napoleon, you are given permission from the government with what to do. And how this impacts us is because we have gone from a country back in this time, in the 50s and in the 40s, that was totally ruled by that, to the time now where we're being given government's permission to do almost everything. I live in Saskatchewan. I have to get a wildlife identification number to go out to buy a fishing license or a hunting license. Pretty soon I'll probably have to buy it, just go out and hug my favorite tree, because the government's given me permission to go out into my own habitat, which I own as a citizen of Saskatchewan, and do my lawful activities in it. This is very strange. The big thing of this is the difference between the Firearms Acquisition Certificate of 1978, and I'm bringing 78 in because that's where we're at in our chronology when we do this. The Firearms Acquisition Certificate, which was fought wildly. I can't believe that English's book does not even exist. We were generating up to 11 bags of mail a day, which were being weighed by Trudeau to estimate how many letters were coming, and then they were taken down and incinerated without ever being opened. That's how much stuff we generated. We had rallies, we had protests, we had letter writing campaigns, we had anything you can possibly imagine in a democratic society, and we don't even make it into the history books. Kind of sad, isn't it? But the FAC was the government giving you permission to purchase a firearm. Now, in the world of gun talk, this is a pre-purchase background check, as opposed to the American system where you buy the gun and then you get the background check. The FAC was a pre-purchase background check, which could be removed by the government so you couldn't buy guns. It did not impede in any way guns you already owned. And that was considered a flaw by the bureaucrats. It was fought vigorously and then grudgingly. But one thing I like about gun people is they're really law-abiding. So after it was passed, people obeyed that law. They didn't like it. In fact, I've met people to this day that had never had an FAC. They still got the old 22 they had out in the farm in 1977, and they've never bought another one, and they never will. It's kind of a massive form of passive resistance. But when Alan Rock brought his Firearms Act in, along with the long gun registry, which was very incendiary, and we will spend some time on the long gun registry when the time comes. He brought in the possession and acquisition license, or the possession only license, the PAL and the POL, and these were different items. I now need a license, a permission from the government to conduct my own business on my own property with my own property. And that is new to Canada. This is Code Napoleon law, and you got to ask yourself where it comes from. Well, we're going to take a second right now. We're going to tell you where it comes from. Remember I told you in the on Pierre Trudeau in '78, he was obsessed by the fight against separatism in Quebec. He brought in official bilingualism. Now, I, as one, am not an opponent of bilingualism. I think everybody should speak as many languages as they can, and I'm bitter that by the time I got into French, it was grade 10, and as a tone deaf dyslexic, I was totally lost. It's not fair. My eldest daughter speaks French. Her daughter is fluent, and that's cool. Mind you, I would also like it if she spoke German, Ukrainian, Cree, some of the languages we kick around here in Western Canada. But it's an important skill, and to make the French people in Canada feel part of Canada, I don't think it's a big price to pay, so let's go ahead and do it. But in the course of this, something odd happened. Even though under the Canadian Constitution, the law of Quebec, the civil law, the provincial law, is French law. It's in fact, if you think about it, they're part of the French Empire. It even predates Napoleon, but so it's more civil law. But the criminal code law is supposed to be British common law, and but we have all these bilingual lawyers being trained up and going into the civil service, because that's where bilingual lawyers go, by and large. And we have the situation where our laws are slowly evolving into Code Napoleon because, in my opinion, this is strictly my opinion, and I'm sure all the law societies of Canada will be on my butt over this, but because these people are slowly, because of their training and their education, much of which comes out of France, not out of Canada at all, and French influence, are changing the way our legal system runs. Now, this is very desirable to the bureaucrat, because the bureaucrat wants to control everything. So the Code Napoleon bureaucrat can tell you what to do. You can get the government to tell you what to do, and that's all you're allowed to do. Whereas common law was the king could tell you what the king needed you to do, and everything else you were on your own, mate. And that's not a bad way of running a world, in my opinion. But the battle we fight, and this is, as activists in the next 50 years, the battle you will fight continuously is this battle against Code Napoleon, against the government specifying what you can do and forbidding everything else. It's a very serious problem, and it's one that's come upon us in the last 50 years. I've seen it happen. People deny it happens. I've had lawyers tell me I was full of BS on this, but just look around. Look at the Firearms Act. Look at other acts. Every time you get turned around, you're being controlled by bureaucrats. What we need to do as activists is find the other people who find this activity of the government offensive, and we've got to start making alliances. We've got to make strong political alliances based not on the single issue of gun control, but the single issue of government control. Thank you. Thanks for dropping in and watching. If you liked what you saw, please share it with your friends. Please like it. Please subscribe to our channel and drop into www.the1000.ca and follow our movement. Bye.